Last week, I gave some love to my mate Georgie Radev and the cocktail Tiki Tiki Bang Bang. But in truth, that's not my favourite cocktail from this book. I just went with that one because the name's pretty funny, right? Tiki Tiki Bang Bang. But I think if you were going to ask me what my favourite cocktail from this book was, I'd have to say it's the Beach Whacker. Now again, as always, I'm not making the recipe that's in this book. I'm going to do what I love to do and take it in slightly different directions. Remember, I'm not about fixing cocktails or say the recipes don't work. I'm here purely to give you inspiration so you can take a recipe, you can look at it and think, oh, what happens if I did this instead? Now, before we go any further, this is what the finished cocktail should look like, but ours might be slightly different. So let's dive in. Now, I think you could whack your cocktail in a zzz. I think you could do that, but I'm gonna shake this down. First ingredient, Georgie calls for a pineapple ring. I'm assuming that, probably different now, I'm guessing, but the book was published 2019. So I'm assuming like 2017, 2018, he would have had 10 tins of Del Monte pineapple rings or something like that behind the bar, and he would have muddled those down. These days, we use puree, so I am sticking to that. I've got pineapple puree here from Boiron. Full disclosure, I just do videos here. This is not a proper bar, so I actually just purely for me, I just actually freeze these down. But these are all designed to be ambient purees. Once opened, used within like 8 to 10, some of them 15 days. So I've got a little bit here out of the freezer, and we're just going for 20 ml of Boiron's pineapple, look at this, pineapple puree. Now, why would you use a pineapple puree instead of like pineapple juice? Well, I have touched on this a couple of times. You might think that buying this is actually more expensive. It's not, because when you use 20 ml of that, the flavors are super concentrated. As you will have seen in the cocktail, and you'll see here, it's like thicker. It's just like getting the whole pineapple and going and squeezing it down. Whereas with juice, it's thinner, you've pressed it, you've got rid of all the pulp. And while it does taste of pineapple, it's not a concentrated pineapple flavor. So the purpose of this, 20 ml of this would be your equivalent in taste-wise of possibly 60, 70, 80 ml of pineapple juice. So when you look at it like that, purees actually do work out slightly cheaper than 100% juice. Now, there are a few swaps coming up in this recipe. So say, look, I'm not about, even saying bringing it up to modern day specs or anything like that. I'm just here to show you, look, if the recipe says this, it's a similar profile, flavor profile, perhaps you could use this instead to make, put your own little twist on it. So instead of Georgie's apricot liqueur, now if you like my style of cocktails, I've got a free PDF ebook that you can download where I'll show you how to riff up 10 of my favorite cocktails. The link for that will be in the description below. Be the link in the pinned comment, or if you're watching on desktop or TV, you can scan that QR code right beside my head in the recipe. And it obviously does call for rum as well. I've got Sly Dog's Stoned Fruit spiced rum. Now, obviously there's spices in there, but think when we're talking stoned fruit, think those peaches, those nectarines. I think there's even a touch of papaya in there as well. So we're combining rum, we're combining spices, and we're combining that sort of apricot liqueur vibe into one ingredient here, but I'm only going for 22.5 ml, 3/4 of an ounce. Now this is a bit of a curveball just to amp the spices. There is a spice. Look, right, let's get to it. One of George's ingredients in the original OG recipe is spiced maple syrup. A, I'm not using maple. B, I don't have spiced maple. So instead of that, I'm just amping those spice notes in that stone fruit with their sort of standard spiced rum. Again, not too much, 15 ml, half an ounce. Now, hopefully this should be no stranger to you guys anymore. You should know exactly what this is. This is my go-to spirit, go-to rum behind my bar. I just use it for amping up flavors, for me and my own personal palate, making rum cocktails taste better. Stella 4-rum blend, 22.5 ml, 3/4 of an ounce. So 60 ml essentially of rum gone in there. Georgie had 40 ml, I think, yeah, 40 ml in his original recipe, but don't forget he had those liqueurs and everything there. So we've just kind of combined rums together to actually combine, to give us the rum, but to actually give us some of those liqueur flavors. But one of these same things we are kind of going through is the Orgeat syrup. This is mine. We're going for 20 ml of Orgeat. Now, I just mentioned a second ago that I wasn't going to use the maple. So instead of having the maple, I am swapping that for REAL's Vanilla. I think this is pretty much now my go-to vanilla syrup. I think this stuff is absolutely fantastic. Madagascan vanilla, proper vanilla pods that have been used to infuse this. You know, it's really, really good next level vanilla syrup. So I'm just going for a straight swap, 10 ml vanilla instead of 10 ml of spiced maple. Then we want some lime juice, Boiron, you know, without banging the drum. Look, if you're making cocktails in a bar, do not juice your own limes these days. We've got plenty of 100% brands out there that are cheaper than buying limes, and they're guaranteed taste, guaranteed consistency. I guarantee it, tasting head to head, you know, chances are you're probably going to have Boiron anyway. There's less wastage as well, even if you last 10 days. Home bartenders, there are other products as well, but if you can get through a litre in like 8 to 10 days, you know, do that because it is dirt cheap. So for this, I'm just going for 22.5 ml of lime juice. Now again, to play on that spiced maple flavour, this is going to be the first proper outing of these in a cocktail. Ms. Better's Bitters, brand new capsicist. If I remember this rightly, 4 types of chili in there. You really don't want that much. And yes, the spiced maple would be a very different, but I'm just going to start playing with these now and adding these 2 cocktails. And as I say, you really don't want much. I'm just literally adding that much of a pipette in there. Then another riff, you'll see why in a second, but the original recipe calls for grapefruit soda. I'll show you in a second, but I'm pretty damn sure Georgie is asking for Ting grapefruit soda. I have got some. I'm not going to use it because I'm going to use a different soda water. I'm just going to take it in a slightly different, but to get those grapefruit flavours coming through, I've got Ms. Better's, there you go, Ms. Better's Grapefruit Bitters. So we're going to get those lovely bold grapefruit notes through 1 pipette of them. And as I always do with my cocktails, especially sort of like fruity, tiki, tropical cocktails these days, 5 drops of saline solution. So hopefully you'll agree there's no drastic flavour changes in there. Yes, I have swapped the maple for vanilla, but pretty much it's those standard flavours that Georgie has used in the original recipe. I've kind of kept them. I've just used them in a very different way. Now my glass of choice this time is, again, from Artis. This is actually the Libby, so US as well. Libby, it's their footed beer glass. I've forgotten now, 12 ounces, something like that. But, you know, we don't put beers in these things. We actually do cocktails. Now, I mentioned it a second ago. I'm pretty damn sure that Georgie meant Ting grapefruit soda 2019. Pretty much the only grapefruit soda out on the market there. So I'm pretty convinced that's there. Now I could use that. The recipe only calls for 20 ml. It's not about wastage or anything like that for me. Believe me, I would drink that. But as you know, I love riffing things up. And as this was open from earlier in the filming session, this is, I've just put the cap back on there, but this is Franklin's and Sons. There we go, have a look at that, guava and lime soda. So I'm just gonna top this up ever so slightly with that. And then garnish wise, lovely big bouquet of mint. I've got no pineapple fronds at the moment, but a half a dried grapefruit slice from Frona. Now this is an absolute flavour explosion. So many different layers. These Ms. Better's capsicist, I've learned to say that now properly, if you're watching, capsicist. These are chili bitters. You really don't need that much, but that little, what did I do? Like an 1/8 of a pipette really kind of rounds all those flavours off. They work so well with the fruitiness. The pineapple, spiced sort of a chili pineapple works really well. The stone fruit flavours really come through there from that spiced rum. You've got that lovely layer of spice in the background there as well, as in the spiced rum. You've got this hint of, I know it's the Stella, but this sort of funky kind of savoury kind of note that comes through there as well. I absolutely know that's the Stella. You don't lose the grapefruit either. The grapefruit is there. Honestly, it's just all round, all those flavours. The citrus, I have to give a nod to the citrus as well. That lime juice just beautifully balances that all out. And I'm not saying the brand, I'm just saying lime juice in general, that level, it's just fantastic, this. The one note I am struggling to pick out is the Orgeat. I think it's sort of semi there on the aftertaste. It'd be one of those flavours, if you don't put it in, you'll notice it. But because that is just beautifully well balanced and like all those flavours just sing harmoniously together, I think you don't just kind of pick out one top note. I think you just get everything together. So question time, and I'm probably going to give you like limits here on this, but I'm going to put my recipe up and then George's original recipe in the corner as well. That's on screen now. I don't want you to change the flavours too much. The only real flavour that's different is I've taken maple out of the equation and added vanilla in, but all those other flavours that's in George's original is definitely there. You could argue that I've added guava soda instead of grapefruit soda, but that's that. But how would you put your own little twist on George's recipe? Really interested to see that. I don't think, in fact, I know there is nothing else that I would do to that cocktail. Now, if you like what I'm about, make sure you do subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my future videos. And talking of future videos, the very next cocktail I'm going to attack in, I'm going slightly classy, 2000s classy. We're hitting up the lychee martini, and I can't wait for you to taste that because it's really good. Right. I shall see you later. Toodaloo.